Hey guys, so today I am going to be doing that video that's been going around. It's like if I could only keep 10 eyeshadow palettes, or if I had to replace all of my makeup, what are the first 10 eyeshadow palettes I would run out and purchase? Like one of those awful hypothetical situations. That's what I'm going to be doing today. And this video was created by Annette's Makeup Corner. She is a neighbor. I was going to say she lives in Las Vegas, but she's actually a neighbor here in Las Vegas with me. She lives like within walking distance to me. So I've had the pleasure of hanging out and meeting Annette several times, and she's just such a sweetheart. I will link to her video down below. So anyway, we're gonna be talking about the 10 palettes that I would run out and purchase if all of my makeup were to disappear. So I decided to only talk about makeup that was not limited edition, makeup that if I needed to replace, I could fairly easily. There will be some in here that I think come in and out of stock. You'll know which ones I'm talking about. And if you're curious about my look today, this video is coming tomorrow. It is a very, very exciting video. I cannot wait for you guys to see it. So I'm not wearing any of the eyeshadow palettes that I'm going to be talking about today. This is actually a different one. That if this was like I could only keep 15 palettes, this one maybe would have made it in. But we're doing only 10. We're only doing 10. And I was actually watching Kelsey Brianna J's video on this, and she talked about like all of her eyeshadow palettes. We're talking quads, all the way up to really large palettes. I am only going to be talking about large palettes. If I do this again, I'll do it with small palettes, but I just have so many quads that I just couldn't even like wrap my head around it. So we are talking about larger palettes, basically palettes with like more than 8 pans in them. I kind of consider like larger sized ones. So that's what we're focusing on. So the first 2 palettes I'm gonna talk about, really no surprise. I'm pretty much like a broken record when it comes to these palettes, but the 2 Natasha Denona 28 pan palettes. This is the purple blue one and the green brown one. This palette is definitely by far, for sure, the first one that I would either keep from my stash or I would run out and purchase if everything kind of like disappeared. I love this palette. It's just so perfect. It has all the perfect neutrals I want. I really, really love green. As you can tell, I really, really love green, and there's plenty of greens in here to play with. There's like more neutrals over here that are deeper, but not too deep for my skin tone. And it's just, oh, it's such a beautiful palette. And the formula of the shadows are just impeccable. And I love this palette. I've talked about this palette a lot. I would also keep or run out and purchase this purple blue palette. It's just gorgeous. And for the same reasons that I love the green brown, the formula is beautiful, and there are plenty of neutrals to play around with beautiful pops of color. And I love this like copper shade that's just kind of thrown in there. It just works beautifully with the blues. Stunning. This palette is gorgeous. I definitely reach for the green brown more, but these are definitely the first 2 palettes on my list. I adore these palettes. And since we're talking about Natasha Denona, I wanted to mention the Biba palette. I love the Biba palette. It's just an everyday makeup lover's dream. It is a neutral palette, at least that's how she refers to it, but these shades aren't exactly neutral. I find most of them to be warm and then all of these to be very, very cool, but you end up with neutral looks, or looks that are very everyday, looks that are very natural or on the more natural side. There's 3 metallics in here which are really, really beautiful, and you can apply them over any of these like matter type shades to just, you know, kind of like amp them up a little bit. You just end up with such a beautiful look. It's a very like sophisticated and chic kind of palette, and I love this one. And it has the Natasha Denona quality in terms of the formula, just really, really beautiful. And then the last Natasha Denona palette I'm going to mention, I promise, is the gold palette. I love this palette. This palette is excellent, and I'm a big fan of gold shades, and you have pretty much every kind of gold shade you want in here. You have a very kind of like white, icy kind of gold, a very warm toned gold right in the center there, and then ones with a little bit of shift to them. This one has like a little bit of a pinky shift to it. This one has like a little bit of a green shift to it. It's just gorgeous. And then you have these really rich browns to kind of round it out, and these pops of blue, just absolutely stunning. So those 4 palettes from Natasha Denona, just yes, some of my all-time favorites. All right, the next palette I want to talk about is probably the first palette I thought about when I started thinking about this video, and it is the Viseart Grand Pro Volume 1. This has 30 Viseart matte shades. It is an absolute eyeshadow lover's dream. I love Viseart Matte formula. It's smooth, blendable, long lasting, they're pigmented. I mean, it's like all the right things. I just absolutely love them. And you have 30 of them in here. It's just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And you can mix them together. You can use this white to like lighten up any of these shades. You can like use the black and deepen up any of these shades. It's just great. And you have like every single transition shade you could possibly need like right in this section here. It's just wonderful. It's such a beautiful and practical palette all in one. So the Viseart Grand Pro Volume 1, definitely on this list. And then I've got two palettes that may or may not surprise you, but I thought of this palette immediately too. And this is the Scott Barnes Snatchral palette. And I love this palette. I think it is so beautiful. It's kind of like the Natasha Denona Biba palette in that I find it very, very sophisticated and chic, and you can do so many different looks from something very kind of like daytime to something a little bit more dramatic and evening. But the difference between this palette and the Natasha Denona palette, I find, is first there are a lot more shimmers in here. There's only 3 in the Natasha Denona Biba palette. That one is a little bit more basic. I mean, it's not basic, but it's more basic than this one. This one just has really beautiful metallics that you can really kind of make any eye look, you know, kind of sexy. It's very, very Scott Barnes. This silver screen color is so phenomenal. It's like liquid metal. It's just gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love this palette. I don't use it as much as I would like because I just have a lot of eyeshadow palettes, and you can get so many different eye looks out of this. I really, really love it. So that's the Scott Barnes Snatchral palette. And then the other one that you may or may not be surprised about is the Melt Cosmetics Gemini palette. This is one of those palettes. I'm 46 years old. So when I went to college, it was 1991. This is like college-aged Michelle's like wet dream. I would have worn this eyeshadow palette every single day. I would have just smoked out my eyes with like all of these shades over here, all of these really kind of scummy, grungy colors all over it. I just really, really love this palette, the color story, the quality. I really love Melt Cosmetics eyeshadow quality. I feel like people either really like the palettes or they really like the stacks. I happen to get along with the palettes more than the stack. I don't know, they just work a little bit better for me. The stacks are beautiful too, but I just like the palettes a little bit more. So that's the Gemini palette. You can tell I really like green eyeshadow. So this is another palette that I would keep or run out and repurchase. And then the last 3, they're all Pat McGrath. Not surprised, I'm sure. So let's see, let's start from the top. This one is so dear to me. I don't know if it's my favorite. It's probably tied for #1 in my book when it comes to Pat McGrath palettes, but I just love the #1 palette, the Subliminal palette. The 6 shades over here, I feel like I could use over and over again if I just want a very simple, clean, kind of cool toned look. I absolutely love it. The blue, of course, is gorgeous, and then you can add any of these shimmers to make it like more of a party evening look. But these 6 shades, love, absolutely love. This shade right down here is so gorgeous. It's like this satiny kind of like taupe shade. It's just beautiful, like just like all over the lid, and then with like a little of the black shadow to kind of like give it a little bit of smokiness. Oh, it's stunning, absolutely stunning. And these are great transition shades for me. This is a great like little highlight. Love this palette. So that's the Mothership #1 Subliminal. The other palette that I want to say is maybe like tied for first place is the Divine Rose palette. It's kind of the same thing. Like you get really beautiful, everyday, simple kind of looks with this, but of course you can like amp them up with these 4 like party shades over here, but it's just so pretty. Like this palette is just so pretty. It's so feminine, it's so springy. It's just such a pretty palette to me, and I love all the looks that I've gotten out of it. And this one color over here, it's so good. Look at that duochrome. It has like this light pink base, and then it like moves over into like this peachy orange. Oh, isn't that amazing? I mean, you just tap that on anywhere and it's just voila, like your look is done. So that is the Divine Rose. Okay, and then last but not least, the Bronze Seduction. This came out before the Divine Rose, and so when this came out, I was like, oh yeah, like this is so good. This and the Subliminal, I'm like, these are the only Mothership palettes that I need. I absolutely love it. And then the Divine Rose came out and I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is the one that I need. But I still love this one. This red color This gets me every time. We have another like metallic taupey color, which I'm such a sucker for. All of these special shades, oh, just so, so beautiful. The only minor criticism I have is that I wish this color, because I'm pale AF, I wish this color was just a little bit lighter because it's a little bit deep for like a transition shade. So I really have to use that lightly or even mix it in with this Skin Show shade, which is a satin, which is not my favorite thing to do. But if this was just a little bit lighter, I feel like for me personally with my skin tone, that this would be a little bit more of a versatile kind of palette for me. And that's probably why I like the Divine Rose a little bit more. The color story is just a little bit lighter. This one I feel like is definitely better for like light, medium, deeper skin tones for sure. But it's gorgeous. It's like all about these 4 shades in this palette. Like for the Subliminal, it was all about these 6 shades. For this palette, I feel like it's all about the special shades. So those are my 10 palettes that I would keep, or the 10 palettes that I would run out and purchase. That was really hard. Thankfully, I didn't like rope in all of those smaller palettes. But if you guys are interested in like the 10 smaller eyeshadow palettes that I would keep, let me know down below in the comment section. I would love to do that video. I think these are really fun just to kind of dig through my collection with like a different eye, with like a different kind of perspective. Anyway, let me know down below in the comment section and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.